video, I want to go over correlating pairs. This is one of my major confirmations before getting into a trade. Now, in correlating pairs, I do trade only EU, Euro USD, AU, AUD USD, GU, GBP USD, and the DXY. Now, we don't trade DXY, but the DXY, it's very good to analyze what the DXY is doing. So let me show you guys an example. Before we look at GU, EU, and all the other pairs that I trade, we have to look at DXY to see what exactly is happening on DXY. So I'll give you guys an example of how exactly do I correlate my pairs and how exactly do I add this extra confirmation to my trades. So I'll be going over this trade I took on GBP USD. As we can see the timeline, it's Wednesday 28 December 2022. Wednesday 28 December 2022. Wednesday, December 28, 2022, around that area. So on GU, what I was looking at for GU was first off, on the daily, we do have price coming up, taking this high, price rejecting off this level or filling the fair value gap at that level. And we do see a breaker block within that rejection. And on top of that, on the 4 hour, we can see that price was creating, let me take this out. On the 4 hour or the 1 hour, we can see price creating some sort of trend line. And what I noticed was that price created a trend line. For retail traders, they saw this equal highs in here, maybe these equal highs. They saw this trend line and they thought it must have been a great opportunity to sell right at this area. What happened was price rejected off that level. Then price grabbed all that liquidity. And what I was watching was price to come to this order block after it grabbed that liquidity for a nice sell after grabbing liquidity. But however, price fell without it coming to our order block. And price came back to that level, and we do know that highs do have liquidity, so I saw this as a liquidity grab. And not only was this my confirmation, but I was looking at the other pairs too. I was correlating pairs. So on DXY, I saw these equal highs were forming. So I had the thought that price must come up and grab this liquidity, and if DXY is bullish, that means EU, GU, AU must be bearish. That was one confirmation from DXY. On EU, on the higher time frame, we can see that price came to this area and started rejecting. Also, there was a grab of liquidity from this high, filling in that fair value gap, similar to GU. And I was expecting to see if price can reject off this level. Now, if we go on the 4 hour, we can see that, let me take out this just to make it clearer or cleaner. We can see that there's a nice trendline liquidity forming. So first off, we can see that price is rejecting off that level, and we can see some sort of trendline liquidity forming. As you can see, price came down, respected the trend line. So a lot of retail traders must be buying and placing their stop loss below the lows. So we do have trendline liquidity. So on top of the higher time frame, seeing a potential rejection off this level, we can also see on the lower time frame some liquidity that we should be targeting. So now I'm bearish on EU, bullish on DXY. AU, the price action wasn't that clean, so because price, as we can see on AU, wasn't clean, so I wasn't really trading it. It's just consolidating in this range. But we can see the correlation on DXY and EU, and that's what led me to selling on GU. So let me go back to that level. I placed a sell on that level, 1 hour. After all that confirmation as we can see, I will place my entry at this order block, stop loss above the high, and for 1 or 2, as mentioned in the course, why I always pick 1 to 2, and we can see that price literally came to our entry, rejected cleanly off that, and DXY as well. We see that price eventually came and took out these highs. Same with EU. Currently, we can see EU came down, took out this trendline liquidity. And if you watch my weekly outlook video, I break it down even further. This is for December 27th. So you guys can check out the last week of December, those videos, and you will find this setup present that I took. And this is one great example of how correlation in pairs is one of my main confluences, is one of my major confirmations. We don't just enter in trades off a breaker block or off one confirmation. We need multiple confirmations. We need higher time frame. We need the higher time frame confirmation to back up the lower time frame. We need order blocks. We need liquidity grabs. We need to trade during kill zone sessions. We need to correlate our pairs together. We need to trade with the trend or the institutional order flow. So all of these are very important in developing your technical analysis skills. Also, I get asked often, how do you know which pairs to trade? Sometimes I trade EU, sometimes I trade GU. Well, you just gotta look at the price action. You have to ask yourself, which pair do you think is the cleanest? Which pair do you think, let me actually write it down. Which pair do you think is the cleanest? Which pair? And sometimes on both pairs, there might be order blocks. On GU and EU, there's an order block. So which one do I pick? Or do I pick both of them? First off, you should not place trades on both pairs if price comes to an institutional area, support or resistance area. So what do I mean by this? So say for example, on EU there's a clean order block, and also on GU there's a very clean order block. Do I enter on both pairs? No, you should not, because that is basically one trade idea. If you think about it, they both move the same. So if one hits stop loss, the other one will hit stop loss. So if you're risking 0.5% per trade idea, in this scenario, it wouldn't be 0.5% per trade idea. You're now basically risking 1%. You just double the risk on just one trade idea. So make sure you guys understand that. You should not place trades on both pairs if price comes to an institutional support or resistance area. You must pick which one do you think is the cleanest. Or sometimes both pairs, the price action is clean. So what I would do is I would just pick the one with better spreads, or the one with a smaller stop loss. That way it's just easier to place the lot sizes. It's all up to your preferences, but do not place trades on both pairs, because then you're basically doubling the risk. So just to give you an example, on EU, so let's look at these dates, the 15th to 21. We can see prices trending somewhat, coming to the downside. On EU, 15 to 21. December 15 to 21. 15. Oh shoot. Whereas on EU, what do we see? We just see price in this consolidation range, not even breaking out of it. Whereas in GU is much, much cleaner. Whereas in GU, the same dates, we can see prices actually trending. So in this instance, I would trade GU rather than EU. That's how you determine which pairs do you trade, which pairs do I take a trade on. And also one thing on AUD, so EU and GU, they move pretty similar. Sometimes AUD USD does its own thing. That's like the anomaly in that group. I would say EU, Euro USD, and GBP USD move very similar, whereas AUD USD, I would say, is like a cousin. EU and GU are brothers or sisters, whereas AUD USD is a cousin. Sometimes it follows it, but sometimes it does its own thing. So that's something I've noticed with AU over the years. So just want to let you guys know about that. Also, the correlation between gold and EU, they are correlated. These two are correlated. So most of the times, I wouldn't say exactly every time, but most of the time they are correlated. So sometimes I do like to look at gold to see what EU or DXY wants to do. For example, we can see that on November up till January it's been bullish. EU should be doing the same. November up to January it's been bullish. On gold, we've seen bearishness from what? March to September. On EU, we've seen bearishness from March to September. So you can see the correlation, and we know that DXY is the opposite of EU. So EU, just in case you guys didn't know, DXY moves the complete opposite of EU. So as we can see, from March to September we've been bullish. EU, March to September we've been bearish. bearish. GU should do the exact same. March till September, we've been bearish. March till September, we've been bearish. Gold should be doing the same. March till December, we've been bearish. So those are the correlations. That's how I correlate my pairs. That's how I add this one major confirmation or confluence to my trading plan, and how I increase my chances of my trade becoming a high probability trade setup. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll catch you guys in the next.